What's going on YouTube? American Aquatics here, coming at you on a Tuesday. Sorry I haven't really posted in a while. I think this is my first video in like 5 or 6 months. But I was kind of lazy, and I guess I'm finally getting back into the role of making videos. And if you guys haven't noticed, there's some changes in this tank. First off, you might notice some like encrusted like brown spot algae. I don't know if that's a thing. But it's not that kind of algae you can just rub off with a toothbrush or a mag float. It's like encrusted onto the glass, so I have to use a razor blade. And I've been kind of getting too lazy to get into that, but I'll do that soon because it looks really nasty. Like especially down here, like you can't really see the plants. It's just all algae and it's really gross. And I also added 6 neon tetras, which really brighten up the tank. I mean, white cloud minnows are really cool, but I mean, neon tetras they're blue and red. They're neon. They're almost the most colorful fish you can get in freshwater. And I got these really cheap actually. I got them from PetSmart on Black Friday. And usually people advise not to get fish or anything besides like decorations or lighting and equipment from like big pet stores like PetSmart and Petco. But I mean, this one, I mean, all the fish seemed healthy and it was really cheap too, because usually at my local fish stores, neon tetras are like $2 or $3 a piece, which is really overpriced. And I got these each like 50 or 60 cents a piece, so that was pretty nice. And if you guys haven't noticed, I finally set up my pressurized CO2 system, which is just a paintball tank with this ASA valve and a needle valve. I set this whole thing up for like $25 or less, I think. And this is how I'm diffusing it. And if you guys don't know what diffusing CO2 is, it's basically making sure that the CO2 bubbles have as much contact with the water as possible. Because what some beginner mistakes are like, people just diffuse the CO2. They think they're diffusing the CO2 when they just bubble it into the tank and all the bubbles reach the surface. And that's not what you're trying to do, because the goal is that you're trying to keep as much contact with the bubble and the water at the same time, if you know what I'm saying. Like, you want to keep the CO2 within the tank for as long as possible. Like right here, you see this bubble made by the tank, by the filter. Like the air is just going right back up, so it's not really getting diffused. The oxygen is getting into the water through like the surface agitation, which is not actually good for CO2 diffusion, because if there's any other gases getting into the aquarium besides the CO2, it's not as efficient. So I should probably top this tank off so the water's not as agitated. But bottom line is, you want to keep as much. You want to make sure the CO2 bubbles like dissolve into the water and are not just bubbled up. So like those people that are using just air stones or just bubbling into the tank and all the bubbles are reaching the surface, it's really not efficient, and you're really not doing anything except wasting money and wasting your CO2. So the method I like to use is ceramic disc diffuser, but this one wasn't that good. I got it for like $2 off of eBay, and what was happening is pretty much just a good air stone. That's what I mean. So all the bubbles were reaching the surface, but they were kind of fine. So I just added this really cheap like internal filter kind of power head, and I just shoot it up into the impeller, and the impeller just like destroys all the bubbles and creates some agitation, and it shoots the bubbles into like a really fine mist. And if you guys want to use this method, then I would recommend using a really cheap power head, because over time I think it will really screw up your impeller, because it's not designed for anything except water, because like the rubber grommets, or I don't even know, but that's what I heard, because you're not supposed to really pump air into these things, but most people do it anyways. They just get a really cheap one, do it, because it's really good for diffusing. It's really cheap. And that's the bottom line for CO2 diffusion. You gotta really make sure the CO2 bubbles stay within the water and don't pop up. So if you guys want to see anything new, just comment. And that's an update on my tank so far. So see you later, guys.